Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are very happy to have Hannes Steim with us today, the CEO of Junghans Watches, headquartered in Germany. Most of you may have already seen the video we just showed about his life and career. So I will make it short. He's an incredibly fascinating person. He's the only person I know whose dog was featured in the Automotive Union magazine, UAW, being his quote vice president. Not only is Hannes a very successful business person, but he's also involved in politics and has the most exhilarating hobbies, including fast cars, vantage cars, and private planes. Outside of action-oriented interests, he and his family own hotels, and they just remodeled a castle. Hannes learned about business early on through his father, who took him to meetings at the age of 10. Sometimes, when they were ready to go on a family vacation, a client called and the vacation had to be postponed. As you can see, business is in Hannes' DNA. He turned around various business in Europe and the United States. Hannes was actually born in the United States, but grew up mostly in Europe. Hannes, welcome. We are so grateful to have you with us.
Thank you very much, Andrea. I'm looking forward to the evening, and it's a pleasure to be with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannes. Yeah, it's evening in Germany. It's morning here in
Yeah.
Arizona. So we have people from all over the world, including Asia and the Middle East. So, we have some questions for you first. What I learned from you over the years is that you are a very clear communicator and you make the impossible possible for your teams and stakeholders. Can you talk to us why you are so straightforward and sometimes blunt? I mean, it's more the European style, I suppose, right? More direct, the German style, but maybe you can tell us a little bit about your style and how you work.
Yeah, sure. I think it started early in life that we were always treated from my dad and also from my mom that we were always very direct talking about things probably most families don't talk about. And in business life, right early on, I think one of my first experiences with one of my customers, it was Bosch. Um, I had a partner that told me very clearly to be direct, to tell him if there's any problem and we can solve it together. And I think from that experience, first of all, it helped me to really be direct, to not be afraid of things, even if it's a bad news. And later on in life, when I tried to find my way and I tried to be a little bit more diplomatic, sometimes I realized it doesn't work, and then it helped to be direct. Sometimes the opponent has to work with it, doesn't know how it works at the first moment, but overall, most experience was positive, and it helped me to achieve goals and to really be successful.
So, direct communication, everybody understands what you mean. That's for sure, right? There's no,
Well, sometimes people have to learn that people, if you're direct, it's honest and a true thing. But yes, I think it helped me most of the time.
exactly. It's not an attack. It's just being honest so they understand how
Yes.
you're feeling, right? Exactly. Very good. So, one company that you took over was close to bankruptcy. You came up with a very creative plan to get through the operational challenges and ultimately turn them into around and save it. Can you expand on the situation and explain how you turned it around at such a young age? You were very young at that time, right?
Yeah, actually, it was my first big task. It was the company where I started as a assistant to the management, and then later on I took over. I think after 2.5 years, and it was very interesting because the company was close to bankruptcy. There was a lot of uncertainty in the team. A lot of good people have left. Some people that were still good, they had their heart with the company, so they stayed. And you had some people who were just lazy enough not to look for a new job. So they said, "Oh, we're gonna wait. What's happening?" And so for me, it was really a task how to get the communication back to the team, to get the team to understand what we have to do. And I had to learn sometimes you have to be patient because it will not work that you say something and it happens the next day. So overall, it was a process of more than 4 years that it took us to everybody to understand. And during that time, I spent a lot of time with people on the shop floor, learned about problems, but I learned a lot about people as well. And those people later on helped me a lot to understand what we need to change and how to put them in charge of something, to understand why you take that decision. And in this case, it was ending with the exit from the unions. And the union had a big meeting saying, hey, Mr. Steim, he's the bad guy. He wants to cheat on you. So you need to come to our meeting so we tell you what you need to do in the future. And 7 of my employees out of 135 people showed up, and the other one said, well, we know who's going to help us in the future, and it's Hannes Steim. And that was a good thing for me and gave me a lot of protection for future decisions. And I'm still in contact with a lot of those people, and some even changed over from the former company now to Junghans because they love the way of how I was dealing with my people.
Mm-hmm. Can you expand a little bit how you got the people on your side? I mean, that's pretty impressive, right?
Yeah.
That they stand up for you in front of the union.
Well, first of all, I think every individual wants to be treated fair, and they want to understand why you take a decision. And so I think one of my strengths was that I was able to listen to people and to memorize what they tell me. And then you talk about family issues they have, might not have something to do with the company, but or indirect with the company because it influences their daily life and the way they act. And if you learn a little bit more about their wives, about their kids, about their hobbies, and then you can bring it into a discussion, or if you have something, it brings you back together. And
Mm-hmm.
then they all of a sudden realize it's not all about the company, but he also cares about the person. It gives the person the feeling that she's important or he's important. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's one of the reasons that helped me a lot. And then I was talking even about bad decisions we might have to take and say, hey, we want to do this for this reason. And if it does not work, we have to do this, like exiting the unions. And I told them a year ahead of time what we want to do. And when it came up and the first plan didn't work, I said, okay, we tried it all together. We didn't succeed. So now we have to do the second step. And that's when people realized I made the announcement way ahead of time. I didn't play that game. Oh, now I pull this card and boom, it's on the table and shock people. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
they realized that they even could talk to me. And I think that was one of the important things. I had to talk with almost every employee in that company. With a large company, many hundred people, you cannot do it. But in this case, I had talks with 135 people. And they were shocked at the beginning because they were scared. What do I say in that meeting? What should I do? But I learned so much about people. They learned a lot about me, and they could tell afterwards that they have a trustful person and that they also can address their problems or what they see going wrong in the company. And I learned so much about the operation that it helped me also to change some things around. And that was in the end where people realized I listened to them and some things going to happen. Some things might not happen because we cannot do it or
Yes.
it's not a good plan. But overall, the people understood and they were talking afterwards about their experience with the meeting with me. And overall, I got a very positive feedback.
So you keep them informed at every step of the way then, so they knew in advance exactly what would happen if and you also mentioned something that you asked them to work extra hours at one point. Was that this particular company?
Yes, that was that point. And so at that point, we had the big problem that we were in shifts and people had a lot of hours from the past. I said, okay, listen, I want 16 hours from each person of you. And vice versa, we're going to invest 1.5 million into the company, new equipment, better lighting, stuff that helps you as well and brings the company ahead. But you need to bring that little bit to the table so I can talk to the top management of the other company where we were just a daughter or a small subsidiary of, that everybody is behind it and that we have that plan to succeed. And I think only 9 people said no, and the rest said, yeah, we're going to do it. At the beginning, people said, oh, if I say no, I might be in trouble. So they said yes. And at the end, people understood why we do it. And after 1 year, when we turned that thing around, people came back and said, okay, now we know why you ask us for that, for us, little thing, but we received a lot more for it and we have secured jobs. And at the end, we never had to let people go. It helped us all as a team. And even the people grew together, even if they were in different divisions where they worked against each other, because the one said, and that was from the old management, oh, that's the company that's the part that's losing the money. And on the other side, no, those are the ones losing the money. And I tried to play very open. I showed them the figures. I was talking about results, what a lot of people don't want them to know, whether it's good or not good. Because if it's too good, they say, hey, we want higher wages and whatever. But at that point, it helped a lot because people understood what's the real position of the company.
And these 16 hours, that was per month, an extra 16 hours?
No, actually, that was a one-time deal. So
just a one-time deal.
overall,
Okay.
it was a small thing they had to give. But for me, it was just their commitment. It's not only taking, but it's also, okay, we give something for getting a lot.
Okay.
So actually, it was, in my opinion, a fair deal. And most people afterwards told me, hey, it didn't hurt me to have those 16 hours or not on my paycheck.
Exactly. It's not too much at all. What a creative idea, huh? Now, it's not an exaggeration to say that you have shocked some unions, which helped to get your companies where they needed to go. Can you describe the strategies that you have put in place?
Well, first of all, if you negotiate with unions, they always think they can twist your arm with strike and whatever. And I was lucky enough to have the people behind me. So in Schramberg was the first company with Karl Haas. We exited the union. In America, people have to vote on getting the union out. So I never was able to do that, but we negotiated a 4-year contract. So we had 4 years of smooth, good working environment with the unions. Mexico, we exited the unions, and coming back to Germany at Karl Haas, we had the same deal. And it was the lady from the first company who tried to pull off the same thing on me again, and she didn't succeed. So we exited the unions as well here at Junghans. And first of all, I was very clear with the unions what's going to happen. Like I said before, I told them about my plan and what's going to happen if we don't succeed. And a lot of times they think you pull a number on them and, oh yeah, that's negotiation. And it was not negotiation, it was the truth. And they couldn't act with that truth at the beginning because there was one of those blunt things going right in and telling them. And I think that was their main problem because their strategy didn't work out at all. And at Kern Liebers, we had a very big deal, and the former management, they tried to negotiate with the unions a special contract over 3 years. And it was a special negotiation that the overall German IG Metall, what is the big metal workers union in Germany, they are very strong. They tried to twist our arm, and we said, we want to get this part of the negotiation you did for the overall union companies. We want to get that out of our contract. And they said, no, we cannot have it. We don't do it. And they sent one of their high people from the union, top management people. And we did a negotiation with our union board first in the company, and then we negotiated with the unions. Well, the outcome from the union was worse than what our board from the union negotiated with us. But he said, yes, that's the way we're going to do it. It was a package of saving 16.3 million euro in 3 years overall. So it was a big package. And at the end of the day, they said, okay, well, done deal. We're going to sign it. And the next morning, our union members of the company came back and said, hey, did they just rip us off? Wasn't our package much better than theirs? I said, yes, it was. So what do we do now? Let's go back to your union package, and we're going to tell the union we're not going to sign theirs, we're going to sign yours because it's better for our workers. And that's when they turned completely around against the union and told them, hey, you just sold our souls. You grabbed our pockets, just that you have the better deal for you so you don't lose your face, but it didn't help us. And so I showed off that the union did a worse negotiation just to protect their personal goals and not the goals of their workers.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, we signed a contract for 3 years, and we put it in the paper that it was done by our company union guys and not by the top level union guys. So everybody knew who did the deal. And the union didn't like it. Our people liked it a lot. And finally, now, I think last year, the company exited the union as well, because most people said, hey, we don't need them anymore. They are not protecting our jobs.
Mm-hmm. So you showed them very clearly what the game was they played, right? So
Well, they tried to trick me, and I showed off their game to the people, how they were treated.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Excellent. Yeah, it's not easy in Germany to get rid of a union, that's for sure, huh? I'm
No,
sure.
and like I said, with strikes, they're very strong on that one. And today, the union leader, she doesn't show up anymore.
Now, every company has his hiccups at some point. Can you mention some defining moments in your life?
Well, I think we had a lot of them, and I think one of my main tasks was taking over the responsibility for our productions in the US and Mexico. And we had a maquila concept in between Texas and the border region, Reynosa area in Mexico, for almost 30 years. So we were very proud. We were very successful, and we had a lot of people with us that were there from the first day. But most of you in America know how the border region got really bad at one time. And I took over in 2015 in America. And that's when the first wave was over, with the cartels influencing the unions, influencing politics. And all of a sudden, we had to strengthen the production there. Our main product in that company was seatbelt springs, and it was about 90% of the US car market supplied by our seatbelt springs at that time. So if we would have a cut or a shutdown, the whole American automotive industry would probably be down within not even 4 weeks. So within 1 month. So it was a tough thing. The union knew a little bit about it, but we had that old plant in the middle of the city. We had problems with the cartels around our company. And so we tried to go to a new industrial park, and we talked to our union representatives in the company, and we decided to build a new building. And we had it all set up. It was a big investment. We supplied transporting to the plant. It was only 5 minutes more for people. They were already picked up by buses and brought into the company. But they had climate control. They had a much better cafeteria. They had shower rooms. Everything was just a much higher standard. And when we were ready to move, all of a sudden the union walked in and said, you know what? We want that to happen, and you have to pay severance to all your workers, and you have to rehire them with their old seniority.
Oh,
I
gee.
said, for what? We are giving you better conditions of working. We are out of the city. People can feel more free. We have those cartel problems taken care of because we got security around the industrial park. And so we had a fight. On that one, it was really tough. And at the end, we had to take the decision that we're going to close down, or we're going to sell the new building, and then we're going to move the whole production from the Reynosa area to Monterrey.
Okay.
And at that time, the truck cartels got really bad again. We had a lot of roadblocks. We had trying kidnapping. I had to go there several times, so I didn't feel very comfortable about the whole situation. But at the end, we took most of our employees to come with us to Monterrey with their families. And that was one of the big things in Mexico, that a lot of people, several generations of people live in the same house because they cannot afford a whole house by themselves. But all of a sudden, a lot of people, they went with us to Monterrey. So we also paid for their moving cost. And a lot of those long-term or long-time workers moved with us. And that helped us first to provide the quality we had before, to have the know-how. And afterwards, a lot of people came to me and saying, hey, thank you very much, because our families got life back again, because the whole situation for their daily life with shootings, middle of the street, nighttime, nobody could go out anymore in Reynosa. And now in Monterrey, they had their lives back, and the kids grew up in a much safer environment. And that was a good moment. Overall, it cost the company quite some money. But yes, it was a nice reward afterwards, and it's a prospering company today.
Excellent. And you were held at gunpoint, right? At least.
Well, I was never held as a gunpoint. One of our employees, before I came there, I was there, was held. But I didn't feel very safe. We had security with us, and we tried to change times when we go into the company or when we get there from the US border. We had roadblocks on the other side of the road, but we were very close to it, and it was right in front of our company. The last time I was there, the security driver was waiting for us, and I told him which way I wanted to get out of the city. And I told him we go to the right and go the back road. And he said, okay. And he turned right into the city. And I said, hey, I don't want to go to the city. I want to go this way. He said, trust me, today it's better to take this way. And they had a big shooting, and we would have got in the middle of it. So dad and his son got killed, and we had it on the phone afterwards because we got those security alarms. That was one of those eye-opening moments where I realized how close it is from time to time. Most of the times I was able to not be scared by it. And I remember one of the town hall meetings in the company where we told people that we go to Monterrey. And I had a security person on the left side and on the right side of the stage to talk to my employees. And that was a weird feeling, because we didn't know who was in the crowd and whether there was somebody who was working with the cartels. So it was a strange situation, what I was not feeling comfortable with, but where I had to deal with.
And we have one question here. How can you decide if you're fighting for the right things for your employees? That's a completely different topic now, but someone's wrote that in here.
Well, first of all, most of the times I was really confident about fighting for my people and being there if they have a problem. And that's what I learned from my dad from the beginning, and that's how I was raised. And sometimes when we were when we had holidays for school, my dad took me to the office and said, okay, well, sit down here. You can play with some little die-cast cars, or you can draw or do whatever. And people came to the office, and I realized I picked up how he was talking to his employees, and if they have a personal problem, that we had an open door policy. And even in the evenings or on the weekends when the phone call came at home, he took the time to talk to people, or when we were in town for dinner and people came over. So I grew up like that. So I was always treated, talk to these people, be honest, and take your time for them. And I would say in probably more than 90% of cases, you get a big reward personally, because they help you. If you have a problem with the company, they go that extra mile for you, or they stand in and push other ones that talk bad against you or try to make the success less, to step in for you. And only a few people really disappointed myself, but it really helped me. And in most of the cases, gave me that much strength. And I had one of my employees, he knew me as a little boy, and later on he was my vice president in sales in America. And we had a talk, and he said, you know, Hannes, the Ohio plant we turned around within 1 year. And he said, your biggest success, the people trust you. I said, so why? He said, because it's the little things. The former CEO, he never talked to any of the employees about their private life. He didn't know anything about them, not a birthday, not whether they were married or not, whether they had kids, what were their hobbies. And that's always something where you give the people the feeling you're part of their life, you're kind of a friend, and you are there for them to protect them as well. And that's why they help you, and that's why they push ahead of time. And yes, at the end, I have to say, even today, I'm still in contact with those people, even though I don't work with the company anymore. I've just been to Ohio in fall last year, and I met a lot of the co-workers out of that time. And that's just nice to see, even though you don't have that daily contact anymore, they still are interested about how you're doing and vice versa.
It's all about people, right, at the end.
Yes. And
And
that's how you get friends all around the world.
exactly. I remember when I called you for the first time, I think we met because I checked the reference, and you
Yes.
were so open. We talked for an hour about golfing, and you were in Florida golfing at that time, right? And you felt like an old friend to
No,
me.
I actually was at a car auction.
At a car auction. Okay, okay. Yeah, that's okay. I thought it was golfing. What hiring strategies do you have that may be influenced by your union experiences?
Well, hiring experience is always a thing because, and I went wrong on some of the hirings, I have to admit, because you meet a person, you have that person in the first conversation, and you just got it for probably an hour. And then you have a second one. You have some other people maybe with you that gives their feedback on a person. But a lot of times I try to look for their social skills as well, whether they are in clubs, whether they're engaged in any other things. How do you say in English? Beneficial things where they help the public, because normally you can tell whether they are team players or not. Well, sometimes you need that person who does not look right and left, who just goes straight. But in most cases, and we just had a hiring here in the company, and my CFO of Junghans and me, we had a big discussion because the one guy, he was 35 years, told me about his experience as a quality engineer and a quality manager and what he did for the company. And I didn't feel really good about it. And I had a guy, he was in his early 60s. But I heard a lot about him, and I knew him from the region. So I said, I'm going to go with the person that's 60 years old because he still got time left, and he can raise a new manager out of our team or somebody that we hired to grow into that position because he got that seniority. And my CFO told me, no, we have to go for the younger one. He's much stronger. We get much more out of him. We don't have to start the process over again. And at the end, I was glad we took the old one because he brought so much success and change to the team. And now also how the team is working together, it was just fascinating to see. So sometimes it's the sheer facts that you see on the paper, but sometimes it's just also your belly feeling whether if you are around that person all the time, whether you can stand it or not.
Exactly. And I mean, companies are often looking for people who do something outside their jobs, right? Getting involved in communities or, competitive sports or music. I mean,
Yeah.
that's always desired.
And actually, that was one of the things too, what we had in our former company at Kern Liebers. And at best times, we had over 8,000 people worldwide. And what made that company strong was people that grew within the company who might not have the best resume when it comes to grades or when it came to their degree they had. but they were so strong in what they were doing and how they were working for it, that they succeed a lot of times. And a lot of our people in the 70s and 80s came from a poor background in Germany, but they were probably our best people to grow the company and to bring the company to that level where it is today. And people who just got the high degree, sometimes they don't see the reality, and they are not
Exactly.
prepared for the daily thing. And that's why you have to see which position you're trying to hire and what's the best for it. But just the resume is, for me personally, it's hard.
Yeah, the resumes are often now written by AI, so you can't really tell who's behind it, right? What kind of
True. Yes.
person. And that's why interviewing is so important, that you can figure out more about their lives and how they tick, the candidates, how they function and so forth.
But still, you only got 1 hour. You might have a second hour with them.
Exactly.
So out of that, to look behind the curtain and see whether it's played or whether it's really their honest behavior, sometimes tough. And I was wrong on some of those decisions too.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it just takes a lot of time to get to know someone. And often also the family or the wife or the partner gets invited, or the husband, for meetings for the final interview, right? To
But
get.
I have two very interesting examples about that. One time I had to fire CEO of our plant in Mexico. And I was just put in charge of the company. So I didn't know much about what was wrong, what was the problem, but I had to take care of the action. And I think we had a 3 hour talk. And at the end of the day, because he couldn't realize what's happening now, I said, you know what? Go home, talk to your wife, and tomorrow we're going to meet again. And my partner, he said, hey, we have to close that now. We're going to have to fire him. And why do you want to talk to him tomorrow again? So the next day he came back and I talked to him and said, well, did you sleep about it? Over it? And did you rethink what I just told you? Yeah, on some things you're right. And so we negotiated a contract or to get out of the deal without any lawsuit, without any problems. And we didn't have a lot in writing where we could really get him. And he finally, the second day, he signed the paper and said, okay, well, sounds fair to me how we close this deal. In the evening, I got a LinkedIn or a Xing demand to be connected. So must not have
Interesting.
been that bad because he still respected me as a person. That
Exactly.
was the one experience. And the second one was here at Junghans. I had to take care of my sales rep or my manager for the sales team. And I had 3 talks, long talks with him, telling him what I expect from him, where he's wrong, and try to coach him. And at the end, I was at that point where I was just blunt, saying, hey, you know what? It's not going to work. And either we're going to do it in a way where you don't lose your face and you can find a new job somewhere else without me firing you because you're still not fired. And you can say, hey, there's just a lot of change in that company and that's why I want to leave. And you might find a better job that suits you better. And I told him what I think he should do in the future. And at the end, it was the same deal. You know, he was just shocked because I was so blunt, so clear. That at the end, he respected it. He said, okay, I'm going to look for a job. And we terminated the contract. And I think after 1 year, he came back to me saying, hey, thank you very much. And now I feel personally also much better and that I am in a much better position today. That
And
made him happier as well. So yes, sometimes you have to be very direct and blunt.
exactly, and people need to understand how you feel, right? Sometimes they feel totally different and then don't see your point of view. So I think being direct is just the most simple way to do business. We have a question here from Michael. What initiatives does Junghans have in place to support the professional growth and development of its employees?
Well, here in Schramberg, we're in the middle of the Black Forest, so we got a lot of automotive industry and some other medical device industry. So a lot of good paid jobs, but we are the only watch company, and we have workers with the company that have been with Junghans for 40 years. I think last year we had two ladies with 50 years with the company. But we also have some people with the company for 1 year, for less than 1 year. We also have an apprentice program for watchmakers where we train people over 3 years to become a watchmaker. And so it's very interesting to get those old, very stable people that know what they are doing, that have been in the job with the company for that long. And those young people bring some fresh blood, some new ideas, and to have them work together. And I think overall, one of the big positive things of Junghans, we are a brand. And if they talk to their friends, they say, hey, I'm working for Junghans. And people say, oh, wow, for the watch company, that's great. That's like you're working for Mercedes, like you're working for Chrysler, General Motors. You don't have to explain what you do because everybody knows your product. And if you do a product that people might not know or what's just supplied to another product, and then it's in a big system, you have to do a lot. And I think there's a certain pride for those people working also for Junghans, and that's why I think that's one of the reasons why they like to work for Junghans. The other thing is we have a very quiet environment, and we don't have that very tight bam, 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 bam. You have to be done after 50 seconds. You have to be done after 1 hour. And then next part, next part. So sometimes it takes you a little bit longer to repair a watch. Sometimes it's shorter to assemble a watch. Sometimes you have to take your time because it's not as easy. And so I tell people if they start working for Junghans that they will be sidetracked very easily because they are not on that tight shift schedule anymore. And a lot of people told me after I hired them, oh, yes, it's true like that. But like I said, I just got a new product manager. He worked for Mercedes for 33 years, and he said, hey, that automotive industry, all tight, a lot of my direct reports or people that he reports to, they don't take a decision. They don't want to make that wrong decision. So they give it to me, and I'm not in charge of that, but I have to make this decision. So we move on. We're going to keep the timeline. And he finally said, I'm fed up with that. I cannot take that risk anymore because I will be fired tomorrow if something goes wrong. And if it goes well, nobody says, good job. And so I hired him. And I think what I hear, he got included in the team quite easily. And people respect him as well. And he brought a lot to the table for me where we can learn as well from the automotive industry. So it's not all bad about automotive.
Yeah, they're good things.
But no, it's a different world, and I think people like it.
I mean, it's definitely an amazing brand. I mean, I have Junghans watches, as you know, and someone just commented and said he's a proud owner of a Junghans Meister Telemeter Silver. So,
Very nice.
and but you don't have any development programs internally where you say, like a bench for future management, or that you just look, case by case, who could.
Well, future management depends on to which level. Today, Junghans has about 110 employees. So the pyramid goes like that. So in the top management, there's not a lot of space for a lot of people. So what I also realized that a lot of people who personally think that they should be at the top level, the higher they climb, all of a sudden they cannot fulfill what is asked from them. And then they all of a sudden have that break in their career. And to decide which person should be pushed to the next level and which person you might talk to and say, hey, think about it. I had that with watchmakers who want to do the Meister. Where you get more into the administrative part, where I talk to them and say, hey, are you sure that you want to go away from what you do today working on watches and do the administrative part, about the planning, about all the decision making, about all those meetings. And then I take them into meetings, what we do in those meetings, and all of a sudden they say, maybe it's not the right thing for me. Maybe I should stay where I am, or go in a different way, or become a specialist for the one watch, or for the mechanic movement, or whatever. And sometimes you got those people where you say, hey, we need to take you to the next step, or, well, today you're in sales, maybe you're better in purchasing, because the way you act around customers should be better around your suppliers, because you're very pushy, and that doesn't work with customers, or vice versa. And yeah, sometimes feedback, talking or giving feedback to people helps a lot, or also take them to the next level where you say, hey, could you think about taking over more responsibility? That's what we do, but not on that level that we send them back to school, or where we say, you get extra classes. Yes, sometimes there are classes that we pay for, or to do extra classes for custom things, or stuff like that. That's what we do, yes.
Okay. And in regards to innovation, you showed me your design office and met some of the design team. The designers, they were so motivated to come up with new designs, work on new models, and produce special edition watches. I mean, it was like little boys watching little boys with their Legos. Right now, you have a special edition 18-karat gold watch, right?
Yes.
This business is so dependent on trends. How do you decide what should be launched for the next season?
Well, that's the toughest thing, because I always tell my design people, I don't want to do your job, because you need to design a watch that you personally might not like, but a lot of people like, so it's a success. And sometimes we do just limited editions, because we know only a very special product where not too many people will buy, but you got a certain demand for it. And sometimes you go by colors that will be in for the next year, and there's a big brochure that shows you which colors and which trends going to be in for the next year. And sometimes you got some watches. Last year we launched a pink watch. It was the 1972 competition Pinky, or pink. And a lot of people told me, Junghans cannot do that. That's not Junghans. That's not the DNA. It's too much color, and it's a very special product. And I finally said, no, we're going to do it. We do a limited edition of 100. And people who told me I cannot do it and it will not succeed, all of a sudden called me and said, hey, I got a request. Can I get one? There was a customer who wanted it, who requested it. And we sold the 100 watches very quick. So I don't know, some jewelers might still have it, but I think 85% are sold to the end customer. And that was one of the things where we, in my opinion, set a trend, because if I look at some other watch brands who bring a pink watch today, yes, Junghans was there before. So I think we were right ahead of the stream, but sometimes with our very classy design, in a lot of cases, I think people start copying us, and we look very close for that and go against it when people copy us. And that gives you the feeling of, yes, that's the right part. And sometimes you have to take the decision and say, oh, was a product not good? And sorry, my mistake, we shouldn't have done it.
I mean,
And like I said, or you mentioned that special watch with 18-karat gold. For Junghans, it's a very critical part, because we are in a mid-price level, how they call it. And that's what we are known for, and where we are very happy with, because our competition is very well known, or from us, we know it very well. But that limited watch, we did that for collectors who say, the Rolex, the Patek Philippe, if I want something special, they don't do it for me. Or I got 3 Rolexes now and I want my 4th, and they want me to put in my name on a list, and then they decide when I can buy it. So they are fed up with those games. And yes, we got the product for them, and we only do it with very special dealers, or with very special customers. And that's what's appreciated, because people all of a sudden wear a watch that's not online, that's not in the catalog, that's not showed at the jeweler in their showcase. And so a lot of people don't know what the price of it is. And if they wear it, the connoisseurs for watches, they say, what do you wear? I don't know this watch. Why don't I know about it? How much was it? I don't know. So it creates a certain curiosity, what some people like. And yeah, it's a nice trend for us as well.
Yeah, and I mean it's amazing. I mean you did the Air Force watch, right? With the airplane on the back. You sold
Yes,
that. Go ahead.
yeah, that was from my experience in America. And we had a distributor in America. And being that I lived in America for over 7 years in my life, and I got a lot of friends in America, I think a little bit I'm in the American way of thinking. And some things I like very much about America, also the way of negotiating. And that's when I said, hey, there's much more than just a Max Bill design in America. And our distributor always told me, no, no. And I said, pilot watches, there are so many pilots. There's always a great story. We got a history since 1861. German-made watches made in Germany is very popular in America still to today. And I said, if we don't change it, I go my own way. And we're going to start with a pilot watch with the navy colors from America, from the Corsair. It was navy blue with the white lettering and the red stripes. Also the colors of the American flag and an American warplane on the warbird on the back, lasered onto it. And yeah, finally we succeeded in America, and we sold quite a certain amount of watches in America out of that model. And last year we decided to do our own distribution in America. So we founded Junghans USA for distribution, and it was a very good first year. I'm very happy that we did it.
I'm sure. I mean, they're amazing watches, I have to say. And you know, I mean, it was a very nice surprise. I heard you sold out the pilot watches, and then I got one in the mail from you. And right now,
Yeah.
it's on the Alamogordo Air Force Base.
Okay.
So the
And it
price.
was an interesting story. We had that watch, and all of a sudden we got a call from Malaysia, from our distributor in Malaysia. They said, hey, I need one of those watches. I said, sorry, we are sold out. I can see what I can get one from the market for you. Yes, but I need one with the end number 8. I said, okay, well, lucky number 8, huh? And we finally found one, and we sent it to him. And 3 weeks later, he called again, said, hey, I need 3 more. I said, and number 8, I cannot make that happen. Sorry, it's done. And I said, why? Why do you need it? And he said, well, the first one was sold to the Prime Minister of Malaysia.
Oh
And
my
now
God.
some members of his team, they wanted it too, because he wears it. How
That's
he found out
amazing.
about the watch, I don't know, but I like the story.
That's an amazing story. You also have a story with a comedian, right?
Yeah, that actually just happened in America. And there is a big, he calls himself a blogger, and I think that's the right word. It's Teddy Baldassar. And actually, he started many years back talking about watches. And the first watch he did was a Junghans watch. And so he came back with Junghans again. He got a brick and mortar store in Cleveland now as well, but he also sells online. And the other day he had a video. What is his name? Tom Sikora, the comedian in America.
Yes.
And yeah, and he was at the store, wanted to buy a watch, and Teddy Baldassar told him about that Swiss watch. I don't want to name the name of the brand, but all of a sudden he said, no, I like this Junghans watch. I got some knowledge about Junghans from my past, and I like that orange band. I'm going to buy that watch. And all of a sudden, boom, people were asking for that watch because he bought it. And it was out of his personal opinion. Nobody talked him into buying it. I didn't pay for it. It was his personal decision. And you can tell how people all of a sudden say, oh, that's interesting.
If he's wearing it, I want one. And that's the best marketing you can get,
Yes.
right? I
And
mean,
sometimes you need to be lucky. And in this case, we were lucky.
exactly. That's amazing. Yeah, we have a question here, anonymous. Will a customer ever be able to customize their own watch in the design center?
Sometimes we do it. And we do individualization of watches, depending a little bit on what you want, whether it's a color thing that where you want to change the color of the dial, whether you want a special laser engraving, whether you want a special print on the dial. Housings is a little bit more difficult. If somebody draws a watch and says, that's how it needs to look, that's what I want, can you produce it? Because then it's getting really expensive and it makes normally no sense to do it. But yes, on the other side, we do it a lot. And we had single pieces, we had 10 pieces. We also do special editions for companies. So all the anniversary watches for MAN, semi-trucks, for example, we built them here at Junghans, and then we personalized it with the name. Thank you very much for 40 years or 20 years in service with the company.
No.
And those are things that I think are very important, and also for the appreciation of the customer relationship.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing watch. That's the only thing I can say. Now, someone asked here, what do you find makes Junghans the preferred watch for customers today?
I think you get a very high quality with a long history, with a service that still will be here in many years, hopefully. No, but we have over 160 years of history, and we are still taking pride in our history and also watches that we produced probably 40, 50, 60 years ago. And I think the price point for the quality you get, Junghans is a very good choice. If you want something with the very well-known name, there are other brands from Switzerland that might be stronger or more recognized in America. But all our watches are made here in Schramberg in the Black Forest. We do the assembly. I think, Andrea, you saw it when you were here.
Yes.
So we are very proud of that. We share it, and we take a lot of pride in our products and our history.
And they're so light. I mean, the ones I have are so light and beautiful, and people.
Oh, we can help you on that one. I think right now we got one of the heaviest watches as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
So it's 445 grams.
Oh boy, that might be a little bit too heavy for me.
Oh yeah, for me too.
Yeah. No, I mean, they're amazing. Do you practice a certain philosophy or have a motto that keeps you both humble and strong? That's
Well,
not
I have
person.
that discussion with my girlfriend a lot, and sometimes she says, "Why are you doing that?" And I say it's also for my personal satisfaction. And sometimes you just go home in the evening and say, "Wow, yeah, today it was a good day," and that gives you the feeling you're doing the right thing. And then also sometimes we get letters, we get mails from people wearing our product and giving you a feedback about your product, where you say, "Wow, we made somebody happy out there, and they are proud about it." And that gives you a certain strength too to continue. And if it's a bad day, next day you get up again and hope for a better day.
Can you share any stories or experience with tariffs?
Yeah, I think the worst part was with Donald Trump when he was president for the first time, and he imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum. The same deal we are having today again.
Exactly.
He just announced it that he wants to impose them. And I think it was a bad choice. First of all, he imposed them and he went 2 years back. So for the past 2 years, he imposed tariffs, and I had to go to my customer telling him, "Hey, sorry, a product that you bought last year is now that much more expensive, and we have to find a solution for that." In that case, it was $1 million US, how to solve that problem because we cannot eat it. What happened within that 1 year? At that time, it was a brass material. And we showed that there was no mill in America that can produce that grade of brass material that we needed for that part. And it was a part for automotive industry, so we couldn't change from one day to the other without any approval, without any testing. So our hands were bound. And first, it took us about a year to settle that problem with our customer. And we couldn't find a second source for the material, so we still had to import it from Germany. And at the end, for all the other steel tariffs, we had the problem that the prices increased by 25% at that time. And the American steel industry, they didn't realize what they are doing. So they increased their pricing twice within 1 year. So they were above even importing with the tariffs the material. So they thought, okay, now we can increase our prices. But at the end, it didn't help because the whole product got more expensive and the end customer had to pay for it at the end. It didn't help in quality, it didn't help in getting new jobs done. So I think you need to be a little bit more precise about why you do it, how to help the industry. And I think it's a strong thing for negotiations, but whether it helps the economy and your people in the long term. And yes, right now it's one of our things that we are discussing a lot with importing watches into America. America only got a very, very small watch industry, and most watches are not well known. So there's a lot of import for these watches, and there's a demand for watches. So imposing a tariff on that one, I don't know whether it's going to help or whether it's going to kill the economy or the demand for it.
Yeah, it's a tough one, huh? It's a tough one. Yeah, we hope everything will get better in the future, but there's so many things, happening right now. Everybody is kind of uncertain. So that's why we need strong leaders everywhere to get
Yeah,
through
and
uncertainty.
it's not only America, also the
Exactly.
European countries, the Asian countries, they need to rethink whether it's the right thing what they do with tariffs. And I
Exactly.
can understand Trump in some cases where he says, okay, I'm going to impose them so the other ones take theirs off so they don't harm our products. And for that one, it's a good one. But at the end, you cannot just say, okay, we do it and we leave it alone. And yes, Biden didn't take some of those tariffs off either. He didn't do anything for it. So it's not only Trump, but also the person after who might need to think about it again. And it's not only America, it's also Europe, European Union, it's also Asia, it's all the other free trade agreements that we have where we have to rethink what is practical today and what we have to change to be more successful and bring our economies together so everybody can profit from it.
Exactly. Just have to find better solutions, What do you see as the future of Junghans?
Well, I hope a prosperous future. In the past, we focused a lot on the German market again. For me, we have to think about the global market. I'm very proud about the American market, and me personally, I love America. So for me, it's kind of a second home market where I feel very well treated and I like the people. But also, Japan is a very strong market for us, and we need to grow international. India right now is a very good growing market for us as well. And we can see that made in Germany is still a word out there, and that's what we are proud of. And we're looking to a lot of more nice watches in the future, and of people who are proud of wearing our product and take it to the next level.
So I think we are at the end now. We can't go through all the questions. It's just too much. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Hannes. That was so interesting. So people can go online. It's junghans-shop.com. If you
And
want,
there's also the history. It's not only shop, it's also the
it's
history
all the history and everything
and a
on
lot
there.
of pictures as well. And yeah, if you want to connect directly, Andrea got my contact information. So feel free to ask any question afterwards. Or if you come to Germany, you're more than welcome to stop in Schramberg, and we will give you a little company tour.
Yeah, it's a fascinating building, and it's a very interesting story too. During the Second World War, the building was spared because I think the owner was married to an American, right?
Yes.
And it's one of the few buildings which is still intact. And Hannes and his family also have a little castle next to it. So it's just a beautiful little area there, very close to Stuttgart, about an hour from Stuttgart, right?
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken.
1.5 hours from Zurich and 1 hour from Stuttgart.
Oh, okay, yes. So right in the middle there.
Yes.
No, Hannes, thank you so much. That was so interesting. And we have new tips again we can implement in our lives. We certainly love your watch. And I know many people went online and some ordered them already. It's really fascinating. And thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
No,
And
thank you very much for having me. It was very interesting, and thank you very much.
yeah, thank you. And thank you everyone who joined. With the next event will be with a private equity panelists. We will have three people talking of, private equity background and so forth. We will let you know once that event takes place. It's probably mid-year. And hope to see you all again. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day or evening for those who
Yeah,
are
in
in
this case,
Europe.
evening.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye. Take care. Bye.
Never give up. We are pleased to introduce Mr. Hannes Steim, the CEO and Managing Director of Junghans. Hannes Steim is an expert in unions, leadership impact, adapting to global and local manufacturing markets, and in medium to large-scale operational transformations. After graduating, Steim began his career at an operational level with Karl Haas, a metal processing and plastic composites company based in Germany, with focuses in quality assurance and vital technologies for their work with springs, micro-tuned parts, processes, and components. Karl Haas operates under the Kern Liebers group, where Steim went on to grow in his strategic and leadership capabilities. The Kern Liebers Group is a medium-sized, family-owned motor vehicle manufacturing business with over 40 worldwide locations. Hannes Steim was selected to lead the U.S. business, becoming a president, owner, and CEO during his time with them. Steim proved himself a great public speaker, delivering key messages to their stakeholders around the world, including in China, Mexico, the United States, Portugal, the Czech Republic, and Italy. He was influential in launching a new sales organization for NAFTA, establishing a new plant, renewing contracts with U.S. plants, turnaround operations, and for his work in acquisitions. Steim's role evolved, allowing him to deeply understand core challenges and eliminate their risks in threatening business, a key role successfully accomplished with his leadership intelligence. As of June 2022, Hannes Steim has served as CEO, owner, and managing director of Junghans, a distinguished 162-year-old watch and clock manufacturer headquartered in Schramberg, Germany. Junghans, also known as Junghans Watches, is a pioneer in their industry. You may recognize them for their symmetrical dials and their design, but the craftsmanship is what truly sets them apart. On the business side, there is a level of brilliance from Mr. Steim that takes Junghans to the next level in their operations and positioning worldwide. Hannes Steim continues to speak and educate interested enthusiasts about the collection Junghans has designed over the years. He has a certain fascination toward technology, big and small. Let's begin with the history of Junghans. At the start of the 20th century in 1903, Junghans was the largest watch and clock manufacturer in the world. In the late 1930s, Junghans was the first German company to produce a quartz movement with an indirect central seconds hand. In 1956, they introduced the first German watches with an atomic clock movement. By 1971, they had released the first quartz watch in Germany. In 1972, Junghans served as the official timekeeper of the Summer Olympics in Munich, a pivotal moment in sports history. And in 1985, Junghans produced the first ever radio-controlled watch and table clock. From cars to watches in the business world, his interests are mirrored in his personal life. Hannes Steim has his pilot license and enjoys exploring by ways of a private plane. Though there are 3 main controls in a plane, there are dozens of switches, which is in part why licensing requires weeks of training and a certain minimum hours set by the instructor. Next to flying, driving is a passion and a love for Hannes. Given his connection to former employers Karl Haas and Kern Liebers, we understand why. Junghans is also a proud supporter of motorsports. Hannes presents a watch to winner Michael Kammerman. Though his passion is authentic, so are his business principles and ambitions. From coast to coast and throughout the world, we thank Hannes Steim for joining Career Opportunities International in our webinar series. In our full webinar, Steim will discuss navigating intercultural business and leadership challenges with practical insights on adapting to different cultures and fostering collaboration. It will also cover strategies for working effectively with unions, building trust, and achieving common goals in diverse professional settings. Thank you, your global talent partner.